Right, so hello, greetings from Bruce Wade, sitting in the office in Cape Town at EM Solutions. This is the first of a series of webinars that we're going to run on Wednesday for the next 10 Wednesdays, because there are only 10 Wednesdays left, 10 working weeks left in this year. Shock horror. And hopefully in the next 10 weeks, we're able to give you 10 tips, 10 focus areas in your business to be able to revitalize, refocus, and get things a little bit in line. The goal here is to finish 2018 with a sprint and not dragging, clawing at the final days of the year, but to finish strong and to finish focused. So the first thing we're going to get through are listed 10 areas that we're going to go through. Let's just read them off to you here. So today we're going to look at compliance issues, and there's a whole bunch of things that we find people just ignoring compliance. So we're going to run through a kind of a checklist just to shake your cage a little bit, to make sure that when you come back to work in 2019 and your business is still there legally, and to be able to get that. So then we're going to go look at products and services. We're going to go unpack a little bit about what you're doing in your products. We're going to talk about iteration and innovation within that. And then we're going to dive into your customer pool and play around with who is your customer and unpack some of that. And there was a really interesting talk I went to last night that kind of shook my cage a little bit about customer portfolios and customer personas, and I'll be able to share that with you. Then we dive back into your business. We look at internal processes. What is happening within your internal processes and how to do that. A couple of financial stuff. What is financial management? Are you on top of your financial management stuff within your organization going forward? Marketing. Two aspects of marketing: internal marketing and external marketing, and we're going to separate those two and unpack those a little bit for you. Then we're going to play around in branding, and we might bring my branding expert in on that as a co-host for that one. That'll be really great. And my favorite tool at the moment is a risk register. We've developed an in-house 3-dimensional risk register, and I can't wait to share that with you and playing around with that. So yeah, unpacking some of those tools in the next 10 weeks and being able to sit there and say, how do we unpack good tools in a sprint to the finish of 2018. So there, what lies ahead with that. All these sessions will be, of course, recorded, and all these sessions will be then replayed on Facebook and on our blog. So if you miss anything, don't stress, don't worry. You can always catch up on that, but you won't be able to ask any questions, live questions, and any of those things. So I'm going to just do that. There we go. Okay, so just muting everyone. We've got people joining us, and we are trying to work out how to spool this live on Zoom as well as Facebook at the same time, playing around with that, but we'll get that right in the future things. So what about compliance? What about this thing called registrations and legislations and compliance issues for a small business? Now, I always thought once you registered a business and you sent in your forms and they went to Pretoria and got all that sort of stuff done, that people, you were done and dusted. Once your company was registered, you didn't have to stress too much about all the issues. It just kind of happened. But little did I know that registering your business is just one of the steps on the ladder to becoming compliant. As your business grows, there's a whole bunch of compliance issues, there's a whole bunch of regulations and stuff. And then, like your motor car, there are regular annual things that need to be done to make sure that your business stays compliant and stays regulated. And it's quite interesting is that little technical stuff there. If you're the owner of a business and you sign a lease agreement, or you've got an overdraft or a loan or any kind of financial surety that you've signed on behalf of your business, or your business has signed, then if your business fails at any of these compliance issues, what's happened is that the bank gets notified before you. The bank pulls off these lists of these companies that are now deregistered and non-compliant, and they'll come after you within minutes to claim that surety. So a 3-year lease agreement, overdraft facilities become due immediately if your business fails to be compliant and legal in South Africa. And believe me, we've seen it happen. We've seen literally Monday, 9 o'clock, these guys are already on the phone, and they phone some people to say, oh, you know, this overdraft, it's now due, and by close of play, you're going to get there because your company is no longer valid. And you don't want to be in that situation. So here's just a list. We'll kind of briefly go through them and discuss them. Please use the comment to sit and chat if you want to ask any questions. I'll get to questions at the end, so please, as you get them, type them in. We'll go through them at the end. And if you've got anything really interesting to say that you've just got to interrupt me, put your hand up, and then I will come to you online as well. So I've got all my windows up and listed, and I'll try keep an eye on these things as we go. So a few little things now. South Africa allows us to operate as sole proprietors. That means we can run our business as ourselves, and that's quite fine. We can employ staff, we can assign lease agreements, and there's a whole bunch of things that we can quite easily do as a sole proprietor. But as you grow in your business, it's very important to register a business, because it's the separation of self from the business which is important. And it's very important to have a separate entity. That means that this is me and my business is another thing, another person almost, which means then there's the separation of surety and the separation of legal identity, which becomes very, very important to do that. And it's a big step for that. Companies are registered on CIPC or CIPC. It's department in Pretoria that manages all intellectual property, and you register a company through that, and you can do that through a number of organizations. If you want to be brave, you can try it yourself, but you can register. There's a number of agencies. We do it for our clients, and it's not a big effort if you know what to do and just follow the phases and the steps and write forms and stuff. But you can get that. You have to register certain types of companies, and that's a different sort of deal. The key thing here is once your company is registered, every single year within the month of that registration, you've got to submit an annual return. Think of it like your car license. You get your car, it's licensed every year, you've got to re-license it. It's exactly the same thing. Your company has to be re-licensed every year, and that's done on CIPC, what they call annual returns. And they've just changed that to be hugely complex. They've just updated their annual returns, and I've personally taken that onto my shoulders this year and kind of got through that and understood that a little bit, spoken to some experts, spoken to some accountants and other people, and we are now churning out those annual returns. So if you do not do your annual return on your company, they are deeming it as non-compliant and could deregister you. We've got a client at the moment, forgot to do their annual returns, didn't know about it, and now we're sitting with a company in the process of being closed by CIPC, yet they're still trading, and it's creating all sorts of havoc because they notify people like SARS and the banks, and there's a bunch of issues. So compliance is very, very important. And here's a little tip. If you run a company and you're not too sure, this is like, flip, I'd never heard of this, I don't know what CIPC is, my accountant did it, and that. Send me your company registration number, and I'll do a check for you. It'll take me literally 10 seconds, and we'll be able to just check for you whether your company is compliant. I'll send you back an email to say either yes or this is something that you've got to do. It's rather check and be safe than assuming your accountant's going to do it, assuming that you didn't somebody else is going to do it. Do a quick check, and we've got an account at CIPC. We log in, just put in your number, and we'll check whether you're compliant and up to date, and then we'll let you know either way with that. Worth a check, worth just getting that done. All right. Let's talk about taxes. Well, provisionals, taxes is always something that caught. We've just finished tax season, and I promise you, every accounting company in South Africa is now relaxing and sort of licking their wounds. August is a month, is always really, really hectic for a lot of organizations, and that spills over to, following up all the other aspects of what happens with income tax. So as a company owner, you've got to pay tax twice a year, every August, every February, and provisional tax is paid. So you don't pay tax monthly, you pay tax every 6 months. And August, you submit a return, and then again at the end of the financial year in February. And together with that, you've got to do that plus your annual return. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there. If you are not paid or you haven't submitted provisional tax, then it's definitely something that you need to do and you need to sort out. You should have for yourself a tax clearance and your company a tax clearance. And again there, if you are not certain, check. You can phone SARS and you can check that out there. And if you want us to help you out with that, a little bit more effort getting a tax clearance for you. But if it's something that you haven't got for your company, it's highly recommended. It's a clean bill of health from SARS, which means you can get contracts, you can do work, you can start putting in, opening accounts and stuff. A lot of people said, send me your tax clearance. It's valid for a year, get it once a year and get that filed away, and you can keep that on an ongoing basis with that. Make sure your company is cleared with SARS, paying provisional tax, you've sorted out all that sort of stuff, and you're up and away with that. This just seems like a whole bunch of headache stuff that you've got to have registering a company, but it's part of being an adult. We've got one client that said, I don't want to be an adult. I don't want to do this adulting thing. And it's just one of those things. It's a bit of a lust. That's why we have companies that we outsource it to. But even though you've got an accountant, never assume that your accountant is doing the things that you're assuming they're doing, making sure that they're checking and check up on them, making sure you're getting the piece of paper from your annual returns and your tax clearance and all your returns. Check there. Don't just pay the invoices without proof that it's done. It can come back and bite you with that. Okay, so what about staff? Well, here's an interesting one. I've got a client that we're working with at the moment. He's got about 26 staff, he said, and none of them have got staff contracts. None of them are getting paid other than just cash out of the tin on Friday. It's all just done on an agreement, on a handshake and all that. Now, obviously, this works well for him. The staff seem to be happy because they're completely ignorant to what but it is highly illegal and immoral. You've got to treat your staff well. You've got to be compliant as an employer. As soon as you employ anybody, you've got to register your company as an employer with SARS. That gives you a whole lot of other forms to fill out. With that, then every staff that comes on board has to be registered at SARS. They've got to have a tax number. You've got to put them on there. You've got to pay the UIF. You've got to pay monthly tax, depends on where they are in the income tax brackets and all that sort of stuff. There's recons that needs to be happening, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. Just giving staff salaries, there's certain rules and regulations about what a salary slip has on it, needs to have on it, and the information that's contained, your records, their records, and we've just got to get all that sorted out. Again, if this is something and making your eyes roll back in your head, just pause a little bit, rest. There are people who do this for a living. Okay, contact us. We'll help you out with any of these compliance issues. We'll redirect you to the right people, making sure that all your staff have got proper contracts, you're legally bound with them, and you are compliant. And I can tell you right now from experience and from the issues that we've heard from clients, if you end up at the CCMA for any reason whatsoever, the first thing that the CCMA guy will do is to make sure that you are compliant. And they have a simple rule: non-compliant employers are guilty right up front. We had a guy who's one of their workers arrived drunk at their warehouse. He drove a forklift, destroyed a whole lot of stuff products. He drove into one of the racks. Products fell over. He was completely drunk on Monday, hadn't sobered up from the weekend yet. They fired him on the spot. He went to the CCMA. The guys ended up going there and saying, yeah, he was drunk. It's a shut and, easy case to win there. And the CCMA found them non-compliant and they paid 120,000 Rand fine. True story. And just make sure that we are you're compliant, and make sure that you're doing that. And or because you pay someone to make you compliant, it doesn't mean that they do what they do. We pick up so many people coming to us unhappy with their accountants because they've failed to do returns that they've paid for and all sorts of stuff. So be a little careful with all those things. Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that's just going to complicate this. This is enough to scare anybody off ever wanting to start their own business. But there's things like skills development levy, there's workman's compensation, there's bargaining council, and if you are issuing staff with uniforms, there's uniform allowances. And if you want to get into learnerships, there's a whole bunch of learnership money that you need to pay before you get the money back, and it goes on and on and on and on like this. But having staff is truly a huge burden for somebody who's used to working by themselves. And it's a big wake-up call for people who are coming out of a job, working in a protective environment, thinking, I can do this. I just look at my boss. He does nothing all day, sits with his feet up on the desk, reading the newspaper. I can do that and earn the big bucks. But then all of a sudden you begin to see the different levels of compliance and the levels of stress that business owners need to go through, and all these compliance issues that keep us up at night, and having to scratch money for all these things and to keep your business compliant. But having staff comes with responsibility, and you've got to then do that. If it's a big burden for you, if you like me and admin is your definite no, outsource, find people. It's worth paying somebody to do the pain work than you trying to suffer through it and then stuffing it up and then having to get somebody in to fix it. And it's going to cost you more to fix it than it is to actually get stuff done in the first place. So find people to outsource and get that done. So we've got that. So what about VAT? Well, here's an interesting one. A lot of people just assume that we charge VAT. We've had people come in there and say, no, but I've been charging VAT since I started. And, we say, well, are you registered? And they say, like, no. And so VAT is a bit of an obscure sort of thing there. The rules are, when you start a business, you're non-VAT. You can't charge VAT, you can't claim VAT. You just pay the VAT on your suppliers, and you then bear the brunt of that. When you get to a level where you are turning over R1 million or more in a year, or over 100,000 Rand in a month, then SARS requires you by law to register as a VAT company. So you would go through the process. It's a bit of hoops, bit of jumping around and done there. But in 2-3 months, you can then be registered and you can then start paying. But here's a little tip. Here's a little tip there. As soon as you hit that threshold, start keeping records of all your VAT transactions, especially the VAT that you pay. So we pay VAT on certain services, we buy products and we pay VAT, we pay VAT on our consumables in the office and all that. Keep records of that, because when you then registered, and registration can take a couple of months, you can go claim that money back. And that's a nice little thing. We've had people that ended up with a good chunk of change that we're able to claim back, because at date of compliance, you are now able to claim that. You can't charge VAT until you get your VAT number, but you can claim the VAT back. So time that carefully. We've had people maneuver buying equipment and cars and stuff until they're compliant. To say, don't buy the car now, wait 2 months, because then you are VAT, and then you can claim your car and you can get the VAT back. So there's a bit of, clever maneuvering, nothing illegal, but just smart stuff that you can do. Save some money, put money back into your bank account at a later stage, all good for Christmas, and to be able to help pay those added bills with that. And there's a little thing called ETI, and here's a little one that a lot of companies make use of. There is that if you employ staff who are under 30, okay, if you employ staff under 30, SARS will give you 1,000 Rand back every month just for employing them. Okay, just like that. They call it Employee Tax Incentive, or ETI, and you need to register that through your employer if you're a registered employer, and then it's a separate little thing that your accountant will do, or whoever's doing your SARS stuff for your employees, and they will then give you that cash back. They send it through, I think, every 6 months or something like that. It's a little cash bonus that you get back. So young staff, it's there to encourage companies to employ youth, and I think youth are under 30 for that thing. Age of youth changes, everyone, but for that, I think it's the age of 30, and then everybody under 30 for the first year you get 1,000 Rand back. I think the next year drops a bit, so for your first 2 years of employing people under 30 are it's a great incentive to get some money back and get that sorted out with that. So there's just a little bit of stuff there, hopefully not scaring you away and sort of playing on your fears with us. But these are some of the compliance issues. These were just some of the highlights that we have when it comes to legislation and getting that done there. But there's a bunch of other little annual things that creep up and tend to surprise even us. We get that. And those are little things like hosting fee. All right. When last did you update your hosting fee? A lot of we pay annual hosting fee because it's cheaper than monthly hosting fee. But then all of a sudden this invoice tends to come, and ours all come around June, July time. And we've now had a couple of years and we've put them in the budget so we know when they're coming and all this sort of stuff. But simple thing is that if you've got a website, you've got to pay your hosting fee. You've got to pay your annual renewal on your URL. That's your www.mycompany.co.za. That's got an annual renewal. It's not a lot of money. It's like 120 Rand, 100 Rand. So it's not a huge amount. But if you don't pay that because you didn't expect it and you didn't see it and might end up in your spam box, all of a sudden your URL becomes deregistered and your website falls over, and you can do that. Just go look at the ANC's website. They didn't pay their hosting fee and their website was offline. Don't know if it's up yet, but they were making a big deal of it last week, is that the ANC forgot to pay their hosting fee or couldn't, and their website was down. I was at another big corporate the other day looking at their website, and exactly the same thing. These things just tend to slip through the cracks. Put them in your diary, put them in a budget, make sure you've got your annual hosting fees paid and updated. And the same thing goes for your software licenses. Another thing that kind of creeps up on you. If you're using any purchased software, video editing software, or accounting software, any of those sort of software that comes with regular licenses, your Microsoft, you might be paying Office 365 with an annual thing, make sure that you will record the dates when you're going to pay that. There's nothing more embarrassing, and I've seen this happen, people doing presentations and this big red block pops up when they're in the middle of their PowerPoint session to say, this version of software is now outdated and illegal, please cease to use. And it's hugely embarrassing and make you look like a real idiot in front of other people. So just check all your software licenses and make sure that everything is updated and compliant. So getting ready for the end of the year, that's really what the series is about. It's just a tick list of all the compliance issues. And we've started with the most fearful one, because fear marketing tends to be a good attraction for people, because not only will scare you, but hopefully kick you into action a little bit and get you to a point now, well, I want to fix my company. I want to not go on leave in December worrying about, oh, I should have, I could have, I might have, I didn't. And then you come back and you're starting off 2019 with a limp. We want people starting off 2019 with a sprint and to be able to get to the finish line and get that on there. Okay, so let's just have a look here. A few people kind of joined late, so yeah, another welcome to all the people that joined there. Great to have you guys along. We are going to be running this every week at 12 o'clock, but like I said in the beginning, it is going to be recorded, so this will be up on our Facebook page as well as our blog, so you can always come back and re-watch this if you've missed any of that things. So, okay, Chris, thank you. Yeah, okay, Vilmeen says, I pay a CA to ensure every year annual returns was in place. Just realized 3 years she didn't do it. You're not the only one. That happens to a lot of people with that. And luckily, yeah, you've been able to find it. So most certainly that is the case. And a lot of guys have these sort of recurring invoices that they pay, and they're not doing it and stuff. So we actually listed all our clients the other day, and myself and Amanda, we went through all of them, and we picking up all these people that even though they are not with us to do the annual returns, we're picking up these things and saying, hey, Dish, this is it. We found out that you're a few years outdated, and we are now going through, and we spent quite a lot of time last month updating a lot of the annual returns, sometimes 4 years back pay, to sort of do that, and we will be able to sort that out. So just check there again there, the offer that I made. If you've got a company, send me the registration number. Send that to an email, bruce@em-solutions.co.za. We'll check it out for you and we'll update that and email you back whether you're a thumbs up or a not. And we'll tell you how many years you're outstanding or that, just to check that with you. Because if you don't have a CIPC account, these things are often hard to check and get that done with that. All right, so if there are any other questions with that, we'll take those now for the next kind of 5 minutes. Otherwise, we'll shut it down and let you get back to work. Lunchtime learning is always a creative way to do that. And I know we're all busy, get to do things and talks to prepare and workshops to run and people to see. For others, it's just an afternoon nap time to watch the cricket, I suppose. For those people who are retired and semi-retired. I won't mention any names here, but I can think of maybe 1 or 2 on the list that would definitely might be having an afternoon snooze this afternoon. So with that. Okay, any more questions about compliance issues? You can always email me stuff if you don't want to put it on here. We're happy to engage with you and pull back the layers. My kind of recommendation is if you're unsure, ask. And it's always better to come and reveal your dirt or uncertainty up front with us. We'll walk that road with you. We're not going to advertise what you've done bad or thing there, but the longer you wait, the worse it becomes. SARS is very tolerant with people who talk to them and very intolerant with people that tend to hide from them. Okay. Wanda, the whole thing is if you start a business, you cannot be VAT registered. You've got to get to that threshold of R1 million unless you buy an already registered VAT business, which you can do as like a shelf company or something like that. And people want that if they're doing exports or imports and they want that registration up front. You can. It costs you a pretty penny with it. But starting a business, you've got to get to that threshold before you can sign up for VAT on that. So you can't just start a business and register for VAT like you used to, because it just opened up doors for fraud and to be able to do that. About 10 years ago, they had a amnesty stuff with all the people registered for that didn't want to, and you could unregister your company and get back to normality. I did that with my CC and doing that. So that's it. Any other questions in the last 5 minutes? Okay, going, gone. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. We had quite a nice crowd. So we will see, and we'll probably put it on quicker to help market it for next week. But again, every Wednesday, weekly Wednesday webinar at noon, and you can join us. And next week, we're going to be chatting about products and services, some hints and tips of what you should be doing with your products and services to maybe iterate and refocus, to get focused, ready, finish the year on a sprint, start the year off full of energy and get going. Thank you very much. We will see you next week, the same time, same place. Enjoy your week. Cheers.